Hey, what is going on, everybody? Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Hope you guys don't have to work tomorrow. Martin Luther King Day. Got to give it up for that. So, this is going to be the last part to one of the most horrific crimes that I've ever heard of. I've seen a lot of people watch the second one, but they didn't go to the part one. Uh, Absolutely appalling. I mean, to do what this sick mother did, I mean, you had to have, or you would have to have, determination beyond belief. And it's almost unreal that he was able to do what he did. Um, in no way, shape, or form have I ever used this platform to clickbait anybody. But if there was a time that I would say watch something like, off a recommendation, this would be it. This is beyond heinous. I mean, it boggles my mind. I had to share it with you guys. Given that it's an hour and a half, I broke it down into three parts. I finished the second one. Here's the third one, and we're gonna react to it together. And to say enjoy it would be a disservice, but hope you find it interesting and glad that the outcome is what it was. So without further ado, here we go.
I think there's a point.
And what happened in the bathroom? Detectives want answers.
I think there's a point that you're trying to block out because it's killing you right now. It's burning you up because of what happened. And you're thinking back right now thinking, wow, I can't believe I did something like that. But it wasn't you. You weren't in the right state of mind. You wouldn't intentionally hurt her, right?
Listen, there's nothing inside of me that I am not telling you. Everything that I know is everything that you know. Okay? I'm not hiding nothing. I'm not, I prefer to pay 20 years on jail just for for her family to be okay and they don't think I'm a monster.
I don't think you're a monster. No one thinks you're a monster.
I don't.
But you have to be honest and help us put the pieces together from point A to B. You're giving us here, and then there's a gap, and then you're giving us after. That time in between, from that closet to that bathroom, something happened from the closet to the bathroom that you're leaving out. Okay? You guys drank. You had an argument.
Yeah,
Did the argument happen after, possibly? You're saying it happened before. Did it happen after? Did it happen during?
Oh. When I break that stuff, it was right.
Why are you
right
breaking
before
stuff?
we make sense.
Okay. So you're breaking stuff. You're having an argument. What is the argument about?
I don't know. That's what I don't know. I wish I can remember and I'm telling you. I can't.
But
I
see,
can, I can tell you.
Do you
I
understand how that would?
I
know, but don't you understand how that would make more sense? That if you did something during sex that may have injured her, there's a reason. There'd have to be a reason. You're not just going to do it for no reason.
No.
You're not going to hurt her for no reason.
You're going to hurt her just because she's drunk?
No.
Just because you're drunk?
No.
You said you've had sex with her when you're drunk before.
Yeah.
Both of you have been drunk before.
But not like yesterday. Yesterday we were like really, really, really drunk.
I understand that, okay? But you also said to us earlier that the kinkiest or the craziest thing you've done sexually was a 69.
69.
Okay, so that's why we're saying something else happened here. This isn't rough sex. I've said that before.
I understand that.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. That's
you
not
do?
Rose
Okay,
says.
so then explain to us what it was.
What it was to me, Rose says when I was drunk. And for her, the same thing. Because she don't scream with pain. She wasn't telling me to stop. How can I explain? I mean, I don't leave nothing behind. I can tell you whatever. I can tell you, yeah, we have an argument about her edge, and that's it. But I'm not going to tell you that because I really don't know, man.
You said that she never said stop. Was she unconscious? Did she pass out?
She was talking. She
was talking.
Initially,
But you could be, when you get drunk and you have no idea what's going on, and you
when she was unconscious is when I went to the bathroom, she cannot breathe.
In the closet. Did she pass out in the closet?
No, she was like normal, like normal.
She wasn't normal in the closet. She had her stomach ripped out of her in the closet.
I know, you guys tell me that right now, but
there's the amount of blood that's in the closet and what happened in the closet. There's no way that she was either saying no and stop because it hurt like hell, or she was unconscious. That's the only explanation we can have here.
She wasn't unconscious. She wasn't, and she wasn't telling me to stop.
But that's the thing. It's one of those two things.
No,
because she's going to let you rip her stomach out and not say anything? That doesn't make any sense. That makes absolutely no sense, Fidel. Does it to you?
It doesn't make sense.
So I'm not. So we're on the same page here.
I understand. We're on the same page.
Okay. Because
Fidel continues to tell officials that he doesn't remember anything else, but he admits to washing blood off his hand and arm before going outside to smoke. Blood and guts inside? Sure. Cigarette smoke? No. Smoke's bad. Better go outside. Wouldn't want to ruin the decor of the place. The interrogation is running in circles. One of the detectives asks Fidel if he would like to take a short smoke break. While doing so, he recommends Fidel write down everything he remembers from the evening in question and hopes that it might help jog his memory. But Fidel still maintains that he cannot remember. Then one of the detectives tells Lopez that he thinks he knows what happened. Fidel asks him what he thinks, and the officer tells him that he believes Fidel had trouble performing due to the amount of alcohol he consumed that night. The detective believes that this is what led to the argument. Lopez denies, but still says he can't remember. And that's when the cops turn up the heat.
To be honest, man, I really don't know what happened. Listen, I was so...
Fidel, come on. Go. Listen, you remember here, and you remember here.
Yeah,
but you conveniently don't remember the most important part. You conveniently don't remember what happened in the closet, what happened in the bathroom, okay? But what happened in between the two? She had her guts ripped out in the closet. And you're going to sit here and tell us, come on, you don't remember what the argument was about?
We're drinking, we get drunk. I don't even know, not even when I open the hose, when I break the window. I don't even remember when I did that. I don't know what was the argument. I know something happened, but I really don't know, man. I mean, like...
Fidel, you ripped her insides out of her through her vagina.
I didn't mean to do that, man.
I understand that, but you did it. What pissed you off to the point where you did that? Was she fucking somebody else?
No.
Did she tell you she wanted to leave you? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know. Did she tell you she was having sex with her ex-husband again?
No. We wasn't. I was drunk. She was drunk.
in your house before all this started going on, did you start talking about that? When you sat down at your little makeshift boxes, cutting up lines, having...
No, the only thing we talk about was one of her aunts don't like her ex-husband. That's the only thing we talk, like, you know?
How did that conversation come about? You're having a nice night with your girl, having drinks,
yeah,
and you start talking about her cousins and her ex-husband?
No, because, you know, we were just talking about her family or my family and things like that, and, you know.
So at some point in the night, Maria's ex-husband was clearly mentioned. Maria also told Fidel that she was considering moving back to Peru to live with her mother. Were these things the cause of Fidel's drunken rage? Detectives struggle to get a straight answer out of Fidel because, of course, he can't remember. So let me address something. There is an argument that can be made here about alcoholic blackouts. They are very real and very dangerous. There's a book by Dr. Donald F. Sweeney called The Alcoholic Blackout, Walking, Talking, Unconscious, and Lethal, where the author discusses what he believes happens when someone blacks out from alcohol. From what I remember while reading this book, excessive alcohol consumption may temporarily impair the frontal lobe part of the brain, which is responsible for filtering impulses. Will you put that lampshade on your head and take off all your clothes in the bar? Will you murder someone because you don't like the shoes they're wearing? While I'm sure the science isn't as straightforward as that, my understanding is that these type of thoughts are at least partially filtered from action by this part of the brain. So when the frontal lobe isn't functioning as it should, Dangerous judgment has high potential. I believe the author of the book also stated that during an alcoholic blackout, memory cells are often not created, therefore, remembering events that occurred before really may not be possible. It's a good book and good perspective on things, but I still feel as though it needs more professional scrutiny. There are several real-life case examples in the book of some extremely horrific crimes that were committed by people with no violent background, all committed during an alcoholic blackout. And I'll be honest, they do seem eerily reminiscent of this case, initially. The book went so well that Dr. Sweeney began to receive hundreds of emails from people who had terribly frightening blackout experiences while under the influence of alcohol. From them, he compiled another book he called Cries from the Abyss. If you suffer from alcoholic blackouts, you should consider getting these books on Amazon Kindle. They're cheap and a very interesting read. I tried to reach out to Dr. Sweeney, but I'm sad to say that it appears he passed away in 2018.
That sucks.
I'll include links to his 2 blackout books in the description down below. Rest in peace, Dr. Sweeney. While I'll never accept that mental illness or drugs of any kind should fully negate fault for intentionally causing harm to someone else, I do recognize that people can step outside themselves due to certain types of substance impairment. But ultimately, you decided to consume that substance that led you to do what you did. And once you gain control of yourself, you must accept responsibility for your actions no matter what they were at the time of your impairment. Personally, at this point, I don't feel as though Fidel Lopez was blacked out at all. I feel like he's choosing not to remember certain things because they make him look bad. He can remember all the good things he thinks he did that night, but none of the bad shit. And more importantly, I don't see any remorse. Not a single ounce. I don't know about you, but if I did something like this to my loved one while I was blacked out, I'd kill myself immediately. No questions asked.
When we do an investigation like this, we're talking to neighbors, we're knocking out. You live in an apartment complex, okay? Your neighbors are right there. The walls are thin, okay? So they hear what sounds like construction going on in the apartment next door because you're breaking shit for hours. And they hear a male voice screaming for hours. But they don't hear any female voice.
Because I was trying.
For hours before 911 was called.
Before 911 was called.
Yes.
Around 1 o'clock in the morning.
911 was called sometime around 3:30. Somewhere rough there.
Saying what?
I don't know what you were saying. I have no idea.
I remember when I screamed, it was when I know that she wasn't breathing. It's when I started screaming.
Okay, but okay.
That's where I screamed.
But you didn't call 911 right away.
Of course I did call 911. I called 911 when she wasn't breathing. I called 911 right away, desperate. You know?
2 hours prior to you call 911, you were yelling and screaming and breaking things in the house.
A breaking thing that's
right.
true.
And you're yelling and screaming, but yet there's no female voice yelling and screaming. Do you understand what we're trying to say? Maria wasn't yelling and screaming because Maria couldn't scream. Because either A, she was passed out, or she was dead already.
No, she wasn't dead, man. She was like this when I called 911.
So for 2 hours, roughly 2.5 hours, what were you doing besides breaking up your apartment? I think you were breaking up the apartment because you realized that for 2.5 hours she was dead. And you panicked. Panicked when you realized it, started breaking shit, not knowing what to do.
You took it too far.
Took it too far, okay? This is what I think. And then eventually you call 911. Something made you so angry that this happened, okay? Ripping out your girlfriend's insides physically and then being on the floor in the closet is not rough sex. We've gotten past that part. Okay? What caused you to become so violent?
Alcohol.
And what?
And what? Not just the alcohol. You don't go from a penis to a beer bottle to your whole fist and up to your elbow. That just doesn't happen.
Without some type of reason.
Exactly. And that happened because you got so angry. Okay? And that's what we want you to explain to us. Paint the picture for us of what happened So you look like a human being that just snapped, okay? Instead of some sadistic monster who said, you know what? Fuck this bitch, I'm just going to rip her guts out. I don't think you're that person. Either does he. But you have to explain to us so we can explain to other people. Listen, he didn't mean to do this. He really didn't. They got into an argument, they got into a fight, and you know, with the alcohol, one thing happened, you know, but you have to explain that to us.
Okay, the crime scene, they shake the, if she had something with the tequila, caused something to her too.
The tequila? Well,
Yeah.
it caused her to be intoxicated. Absolutely.
Intoxicated and something to, because she wasn't breathing.
She wasn't breathing. I understand that. She wasn't breathing because she was bleeding. She bled out.
Because of what was ripped out from her insides.
That's why she wasn't breathing.
It takes more of a man to admit when he's wrong than it takes a man to cry. Be that man. Be that person. Because that's who you are.
She was telling me she going to Peru. She need to go to Peru because she was missing her mother, and you know, and I'm not gonna be able to use the car to go to work, and you know, just start screaming at me and all that. I get pissed. I start punching the shit. I really don't remember when I punched the shit. You just tell me. I know I get pissed because of that. Then after that, I don't know how we ended up in the cross or whatever. I know we made peace, but when we were doing making love, she told me something that I really don't. It just she changed my name. She called me the other fucking name of the other guy, and then she said it twice, and she was wrong. She was confusing me with him. I didn't want to kill her. I know I killed her. That's whatever I did with her was the reason. But she was asking me about the bottle. And she was asking me about the hand too. And maybe things go a little bit far because, you know, once she's confusing me with the other one and she told me to do stuff with her that I've never done before, I think that she might think that's the other stuff that she does with the other one before. Things go out of hands. I know, you know, never meant to kill her.
Did at any point she tell you it hurts, stop?
Never. That's one of the stuff that never.
But, okay.
If she were telling me that I was screaming or something, somebody would hear it.
So
Trust me.
was she passed out?
No, she wasn't passed out. She was calling me the other dude's name.
Where was that at? Was that
In the closet.
in the closet?
This is where we start, over there.
Okay. Explain to us, tell us what happened.
Then, we were fucking and she was telling me the other dude's name.
What name was she calling you?
Norbert.
Norvert? Is that her ex-husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know,
So what did you do at that point?
at that point I get mad. I get really, really mad. You know, and it makes me feel bad, very bad. I mean, like,
Make you feel like you were not adequate enough? Like you couldn't satisfy her? I'm asking you.
no, that I'm always satisfied. She was okay with me, but I don't know just what happened with her. She gets so drunk. I don't know why she was confusing me and telling me Robert besides Fidel. I was drunk, very, very drunk.
I know you're frustrated. You're drunk. You're frustrated. You're
But
upset.
I didn't mean
you're
to
angry.
kill her, man.
I know,
I really
but you
don't
took
mean
it.
to kill her,
We
man.
understand it. We
She's
understand
my
that.
love, man.
We understand that. But she pissed you off because she called you another man's name. I can tell you right now, if I'm having sex with my wife and she calls out another man's name, I'm going to get pissed off. Okay? It's human nature, dude. Don't.
This is not human, man. I just took her life. I don't mean to, but I did it.
Because you got enraged.
Because I was wrong. If I was sober, maybe I understand. Maybe I just left the apartment, but I was drunk.
Fidel Lopez basically just admitted that he pulled out his girlfriend's insides through her private parts because she accidentally called him her ex-husband's name. It made him angry because he thought the stuff they were doing was stuff that Maria and her ex used to do. At some point, Fidel also admits that Maria didn't walk to the bathroom. She crawled. In my opinion, this is one of the worst cases of jealousy that I've ever heard. Fidel continues to blame what he did on alcohol and states that if he was sober, he might have just left the apartment. But he didn't. And the whole blackout theory has now flown out the window due to his admissions. The detectives ask Fidel why he lied at the start of the interview. He says because he was scared. They've also asked him several cognitive questions like what he was wearing throughout the interrogation. I would imagine this is for the purpose of countering his can't remember answers later on during his trial. For the record, he seems to answer these questions correctly with no problem. It's only questions of any wrongdoing where he forgets. As you'll see in the next clip, Fidel Lopez is only concerned with himself. If you'd like to watch the full unedited version of Fidel's released interrogation video, I'll upload the full thing to the channel later. Feel free to watch it yourself.
If I'm having sex with my wife and she calls out another man's name, I'm gonna get pissed off. Okay? It's human nature, dude. Don't.
This is not human, man. I just took her life. I don't mean to, but I did it.
Because you got enraged.
No, because I was wrong. If I was sober, maybe I understand. Maybe I just left the apartment, but I was wrong. I guess I'm going to jail right now.
Are you sorry for what you did?
Huh?
Are you sorry for what you did?
Am I sorry?
Yeah.
Of course, man. What do you think?
Why were you not telling us the truth at the beginning?
I'm scared, man. And I'm never gonna see her again. I'm never gonna see my kids. And it's something that bothers me right now, man. I really want to ask you because I know I'm going to jail. But, like, how many times do you think it's gonna be this?
What do you want to ask her?
No, to who?
What did you say? You want to ask her something?
No, to you.
Oh.
Like, I know I'm going to jail. I have 2 kids and, you know, and everything. How many years do you think this is going to cost me?
I don't know.
Life
I can't tell you that.
or death.
I have no idea.
Fidel admitted to becoming a monster when Maria Nemeth called out her ex-husband's name during intercourse. According to Fidel's arrest affidavit, he became enraged when Maria called out her ex's name during sex in the closet. It was at this time he left the closet and began to destroy the apartment. When he returned to the closet, Maria was so drunk that she was unable to resist Fidel, and that's when he began to insert things inside her, including the beer bottle, both his fists, and yes, the hair straighteners. He also put some of these things in her anal cavity as well. The affidavit also states that Fidel admitted to pulling and ripping bloody tissue out of Maria through both of the aforementioned places he'd previously been inserting foreign objects into. He said Maria never regained consciousness the whole time. It was then that he washed his hands and went outside to smoke a cigarette. Upon returning inside, Fidel went to the closet and tried to cover up his girlfriend's insides before going back to the bathroom to find that Maria was no longer breathing. That's when he called 911. Some of the reports I've read state that the hair straighteners were actually on at the time of insertion, but I haven't been able to find a medical examiner's report to validate this claim. I have applied for it, and everything else publicly available on this case, so at some point I do plan to make an update video. But for now, that's pretty much all the details available, and they are absolutely depressing. In 2017, Fidel Lopez was convicted of the murder of 31-year-old Maria Nemeth.
Good.
He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He accepted a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. Before he was sentenced,
Coward.
Lopez stated via a translator that he was happy to fulfill his conviction and agrees that what he did must be paid for. He went on to ask Maria's family for forgiveness. I didn't see any tears or emotions in the face of this monster, not even during the clips I could find on his trial. Fidel Lopez didn't even seem embarrassed. Maria's father stated, "If I had to summarize the life of Maria, It would be very difficult to express it in a few lines. I just want to tell you all that she was and will continue to be a model of affection, effort, perseverance, and love of humanity. What a mortifying story. It has been hard to describe this case in words. Even now my thoughts evade me, and even though I've done so much research on this case, I still don't feel desensitized to the details. I just can't imagine what poor Maria Nemeth must have gone through. And I'm sure Fidel Lopez isn't telling us everything. I'm positive of that. I did reach out to him for a statement, but I haven't heard anything back. In my research, I did manage to find that in and around 2014, he was arrested for drunken disorderly conduct. I'd be very interested to find out the details of that, but I hit nothing but dead ends in every direction. I found other reports online about Fidel being a bit of a nuisance in terms of playing loud music a lot and parking wherever he wanted, but ultimately, there's very little information publicly available on him. Until I get the requested case files, I'm stuck at a red light. This is such a sad and horrific case that I don't really know what to say here. A stunning woman lost her life because of a monster's jealousy. This evil man tortured her to death 1 week after they moved in together. Fidel's mom states that he was a sweet boy, but I don't know. I'd love to know what his ex-girlfriends have to say about him. I sense the evil and sadistic temper of a psychopath without remorse. In my opinion, Fidel Lopez is a small individual with fragile feelings, and I wish he was burning in hell right now. I know a few of you don't like it when I take verbal swings at these real-life villains. You want me to show maturity, compassion, understanding, but there's no way in hell I'll concede that honor to people like Fidel Lopez. As far as the case of Fidel Lopez goes, this wasn't a momentary crime of reflex or relapse in judgment. This is not the kind of action that can be fixed. This was a 2-hour-long nightmare in which an innocent victim was literally turned inside out by the person she loved and trusted the most. If you want to show mercy to Fidel Lopez's mental state at the time of the crime, be my guest. But I won't. Hey, some cases that involve murder just may be able to be rectified in a correctional facility with time and therapy. I'm sure those cases exist, but this is not one of them. And I don't play by the rules of Batman.
This is an update to the Fidel Lopez case by Mr. Black at The Disturbing Truth. Warning, this will be rough.
So, some people still believe Fidel Lopez, and they think he's telling the truth about Maria Nemeth, that her death was the result of rough sex. Let me be the first to tell you that that's clean mental and you're barking mad. Oh, and that's just based on the evidence out there. And I'm about to give you more. After I uploaded the video, I was surprised at how many people sympathized with Fidel. I mean, it was nowhere near a majority or anything, but a little tiny handful. Enough to be a little concerning. Some people even thought he was telling the truth and that suction from his fist caused Maria's insides to come out of her. So I went out and did 2 things. First, since I couldn't find it online, I obtained a copy of Maria Nemeth's full medical report. Then I consulted with a friend of mine who happens to be a doctor capable of reviewing that report with me. Let me start by saying that Maria had injuries all over her body, including a heavy blow to the back of the head and defensive wounds on her body. In Maria's southern regions, her 2 cavity entryways were so badly damaged that they couldn't be distinguished from one another. She was quite literally split between them, and that was just at the entrance and shortly past that. Inside, she had injuries that could only be made if Fidel used his fist and violently punched her in there with severe force repeatedly. This was not rough, playful fun, and it certainly wouldn't feel that way. The pain she would have been in would have been unbearable for anyone. And that's coming from a doctor. Also, Fidel pulled out several pieces from her body. One of those pieces was 13 feet long, and that was just one of the parts he pulled out. There were multiple pieces. This was not caused by suction. And this crime Fidel committed was not during a blackout. Notice in his testimony that he only doesn't remember things that make him look bad. Oh, he remembers everything else, including things that might make him look innocent in his situation, but he magically blanks out at the places that make him look even remotely violent. That's real magical, especially considering he doesn't remember anything that he did. And to answer another question someone had, no. According to the medical report, Maria was not pregnant. But there's something about this case we need to talk about. Fidel also mentions that Maria wanted him to stick things in her that night and that she'd never asked him to do that before. He also stated that he had never done that stuff with anyone else before either. Well, I had the chance to speak to Fidel Lopez's ex-girlfriend from high school. She wants to be kept anonymous, but she did provide me with a photo of her and him from back in the day. Looks like they were in high school. And I couldn't find that photo anywhere else online, so I got a feeling she's telling the truth. We'll call her Allison. Allison claims it didn't take much to make Fidel angry. She dated him for a year after he relocated to Florida from Cuba. Allison stated that Fidel was a highly jealous and controlling individual. He told her she wasn't allowed to wear leggings, and if a male friend of hers attempted to greet her in the hallway at school, Fidel would try and fight them at the drop of a dime. Allison said his mom was a nice, sweet, religious lady. Her and Fidel's father both worked nights at Walmart. They lived near the Everglades at the time. Fidel Lopez also has a fraternal twin, a brother. I'm not going to name his name. But strangely enough, Allison also stated that Fidel tried multiple times to stick objects in her, including a candle. She said he was her first, and this made her feel very uncomfortable. Ultimately, she just put it down to some kind of kink and went along with it, never thought much else about it. But nevertheless, I find it kind of odd, especially considering Fidel had never done anything like that before the night he claims Maria asked him to put stuff in her. Fidel reached out to Allison a few times via social media. The last time he did so was a week before he killed Maria, and he wanted to know when he'd see Allison again. She declined his offer. A short while later, his mugshot came up on her timeline. It quite literally could have been Allison if she'd chosen to meet with Fidel. Allison concluded that during the time she dated him, Fidel kind of seemed like a decent guy with a very bad temper. She did say one thing about Fidel that was odd. The last time Allison spoke to him, he had a lot of satanic pictures and writing on his Facebook page, including what she thought was Hebrew. According to her, Allison never believed in the devil until Fidel killed Maria. Now she thinks the devil is what took him over that night. But as for me, I don't blame anyone other than Fidel. He said he was mad about Maria mentioning another man's name, but at the same time, he was going behind her back to talk to his ex-girlfriend about meeting up. If you're still fooled by the lies of Fidel Lopez, there isn't much I or anyone else can do for you. He's a monster. He's where he belongs, and he's never leaving. Now, I think we've pretty much summed that up for the second time.
Rest in peace, Maria Nemeth, a 31-year-old beautiful woman who never got to be a mother because her life was brutally cut short by a monster's jealousy.
Piece of shit. So, as you can see, that was part 3 in the finale. If you're interested at all in this, I would suggest going back to part 1. Like I said, they're cut in half-an-hour increments. I believe the full video is an hour and a half long. I didn't want to upload an hour and a half long video. But one of the most disturbing, flat-out sickening cases I've ever heard. What this poor young woman went through, leaving behind a beautiful little daughter that is now without her mother. I mean, how much more fucking selfish do you gotta be? How big does your ego have to be? Like that detective said, if my wife called me a different name, yeah, I'd be pissed. But how many guys are capable of killing somebody in one of the most deranged and evil ways possible? I mean, I don't think a horror movie has even touched that. I mean, we've seen disembowelment, we've seen just about everything there is in horror movies, but I mean, to rip out her insides and not to distinguish between her cavities is just something that is just horrible beyond belief. And so, I hate to say I hope you found this entertaining, because it's not entertaining, but I hope you found this to be informative whenever you're in the moment of meeting somebody new. You know, take your time to really get to know somebody before you make that plunge of moving in with them, before you make that decision to sleep with them, or whatever the case may be, because you just never know how people are these days. So I hope you guys found this informative, and yeah, I will be uploading some more videos this evening. So thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. If this is your first time on the channel, please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Still trying to grow this channel, and I would appreciate it very much. I do a lot of reaction on different subjects, so if you have any ideas, feel free to drop them. Until the next 20 minutes to half an hour or so, I will see you soon.